702.
Let's walk the talk on 92.7
and 106 FM.
It's 9:36, the Clement Manyathela Show. You're listening to Tshidi Madia standing in for Clement. I'll be with you until 12 o'clock. It is the open line. We're discussing a variety of issues. One of the issues that caught my attention last night, actually irritated me, I'll be honest, was seeing a statement from the Minister of Higher Education, Busani Ngcaweni, and I thought to myself, not you again. We started the week with the minister. At the start of the week, she had released a statement explaining herself. If you remember the clips of her doing the rounds in the portfolio committee, in the higher education portfolio committee, she was explaining why she was chewing, right, in those clips. And she said, no, the chairperson said we can eat. It was a long session. Fine, fantastic, whatever. The issue became for me that if you actually watched the minister, because she kept saying, oh, it's taken out of context, watch the entire thing. She still didn't answer the questions. She still was rude. When she was asked to explain something, she goes, Google it, encyclopedia. And a lot of the comments when I posted that every week this minister has to be forced by stakeholders, in this case, as it was the last time, the president has to express some dissatisfaction for her to come out in public and kind of retract actions. There's never really an apology either. The first time around was about the board appointments, the SETA board appointments, where they were riddled with ANC, people with proximity to ANC leadership. And she didn't find anything wrong with that. This time around, it is that video. She released the statement at the beginning of the week explaining herself, but failing to recognize that she failed to take accountability. That when you are called before a portfolio committee, you're not answering to those MPs. You're answering to the Republic, to us citizens. You're talking to us. And one of the questions that struck me last night is people going, why isn't there any training of ethics and the likes for ministers? But there is. We have a national school of government. There's induction training that happens. So one has to ask themselves sort of, how did the minister get lost? But anyway, she releases the statement last night where she says she's noted the concerns raised by various stakeholders. She goes on to speak about upon reflection and having considered the feedback received from various, again, stakeholders. She acknowledges that the situation could have been handled differently. She takes the opportunity to express her commitment to strengthening the relationship between the ministry, the department, and the portfolio committee. She says she intends to inculcate and maintain a constructive, respectful, and professional working relationship with all members of parliament. She remains committed to the principles of accountability, good governance, and cooperative governance. We can all say, right, after watching her, that none of those things were in play when she was in that particular, when she appeared before that particular portfolio committee. I'm inclined to call for many other things about this minister. But before I do that, I do want to bring in Busani Ngcaweni, who is the principal of the National School of Government, to speak about what is there, how do they prepare ministers, MPs, those who have public service to serve and to understand the importance of the role and not undermining the public, the electorate. Busani, good morning. Welcome to Radio 702. Thank you so much for your time. I mean, Busani, when people go, are these ministers trained? Are these MPs taught anything about ethics? What goes to your mind? Because the reason why that's raised in the public domain is because it's found wanting in those who are serving in the public space.
Yes, good morning, Tshidi, and your listeners. Well, yeah, we do train ministers. As we speak right now, actually, we have a whole legislature of Mpumalanga in training session on ethical leadership and legislative oversight. 2 weeks ago, we had a whole cabinet of Mpumalanga in the same program, and we run a variety of those in different provinces and also at a national level, including for the portfolio committees themselves. There is a compulsory ethics course which is online. It's compulsory for public servants. A number of ministers are doing that, and other members of parliament on a voluntary basis, because not yet compulsory for them, and we have a few of them who are registering it. Then the one that we do, which is training, which is in person, we cover a variety of issues there with regards to ethics, not only ethics in terms of, making sure that there is no corruption and so on, but ethics in terms of how one invests himself or herself in the responsibility that they are given in the Republic. And we get very interesting feedback out of it. We even touch on issues of unlawful instructions. There is the memo, the Public Service Commission takes that module, and there's a memo, and they quote a variety of laws with regards to giving the unlawful instruction. With regards to Parliament, I mean, maybe based on your question now, I need to close a gap in the training program, because in our program we do train ministers and deputies and MECs on how to engage with Parliament, but we've never covered these aspects. So what we cover is issues of responding to parliamentary questions, which is one way of members responding. That's usually in the House. They have to respond. The leader of government business does the monitoring of that. Just 2 weeks ago, we had all parliamentary liaison officers of ministers in a training session talking about parliamentary questions and their responsibility thereof, because the leader of government business, which is the deputy president, does the report to cabinet every fortnight on outstanding questions, and we all see in the newspapers when different members of parliament will show that a particular minister hasn't responded to parliament. The second part we talk about is their responsibility in relation to appearing when there is legislation or bills, or when their budgets or other member statements are being discussed, and also how they engage in the parliamentary in committees. What we have not done, I admit, is then how do you manage a situation like that one that arises in a parliament setup, and how do you as a member of the executive respond to that? For example, you can't as a minister, if people are throwing boxes and so on, we know all these things that happen in parliament across the world. Actually, there's an expectation that if you're in the executive, you might not do that, and we've seen how it has been done in other countries. So it's an aspect that we haven't really dealt with. I will say, from what you have said on your preamble, maybe the behavior stuff, and it's something that we will cover. But generally on issues of ethics, we do take ministers and other elected officials through it, and in the majority of cases they are responding very positively to it.
All right, Busani, I'm going to let you go. Thank you. That's Busani Ngcaweni, principal of the National School of Government. I hear him saying that they haven't dealt with the issue of behavior, but actually, if we're being honest, you don't have to teach an adult to treat other adults with respect. The minister should know that by now. For me, Mr. Ngcaweni purely serves ANC National Conference desires. It's got very little to do with the portfolio and the job at hand. A lot of her actions speak to me as somebody who covers politics to 2027. It speaks to me with who she's aligned to and why it's important to try and get KZN on their books. That's all. All her actions, guys, please pay attention, are about the ANC's National Conference, that minister. And that bothers me. I'm also very worried that here's a minister who very soon will not be allowed to set foot on any of the country's institutions of higher learning. She's isolating herself. She's making it difficult. And she is somebody who, when her sword falls, and I think it will, she'll have no one to blame but herself. At every turn, I look at the Minister of Higher Education and I think, geez, you don't belong there. You have no interest in your constituency. You're worried about 2027 for a party that's at 40%. Yes, sis.